A signal was first reported at approximately 6:30 p.m. on Tuesday, August 7, 1973, by Darlene Ross of Fontana, California. Ross had been listening to her CB radio when she heard a young boy cry out, "Help! Please help me," on her transceiver. Ross responded by asking for more information about the boy's situation while trying to calm him down. The boy responded that his father was dead. The lost boy Larry. Lost Boy Larry refers to a purported missing child in the U.S. state of New Mexico whose pleas for help were broadcast on Citizens Band radio over the course of several days in August 1973. The boy, who said his name was Larry, stated that he was stuck inside a truck that had crashed and turned over somewhere in the mountains of New Mexico and that his father, who had been driving, was killed in the accident. The boy's pleas were initially heard as far west as Long Beach, California, due to ionospheric skip. This incident was reported internationally at the time and prompted one of the biggest search and rescue missions in U.S. history up to that point. First broadcast. A battery-powered portable CB radio, such as that Larry was speculated to have used. The Lost Boy Larry signal was first reported at approximately 6:30 p.m. on Tuesday, August 7, 1973, by Darlene Ross of Fontana, California. Ross had been listening to her CB radio when she heard a young boy cry out, "Help! Please help me," on her transceiver. Ross responded by asking for more information about the boy's situation while trying to calm him down. The boy responded that his father was dead. According to Ross, the boy also pleaded, "Come on, David, help me." Ross told the boy to stay on the air so that he could be located. The boy finally provided his own name, Larry, and gave a location of New Mexico before his signal faded. Ross, a former Albuquerque resident, immediately called New Mexico authorities for help given the information Larry had purported. Later that night, Ross contacted the Albuquerque Journal, who broke the news of Larry's broadcast in the following morning's paper. On Wednesday, August 8, multiple other accounts of Larry's distress broadcast became known to the Journal. These initial accounts came from California, as far west as Long Beach, by other CB radio enthusiasts, including one professional truck driver. While the signal strength of typical CB transceivers of the day prevented broadcasts from reaching far beyond the operator's state, the weather that week apparently allowed ionospheric skip to propagate the signal through to the southwestern United States. Larry's signal additionally drifted between different CB channels while he made his pleas. The signal eventually reached to as far east as Mississippi that day, and as far north as Canada shortly after that. While reports of the Larry signal spread in the U.S., search teams in New Mexico prepared to launch a search and rescue mission. That same Wednesday, a CB enthusiast by the name of Linda King, alias Blue Eyes, was, with the assistance of several manned monitoring stations in New Mexico, able to coax Larry into providing more information about his status. In addition to saying that his father had died, Larry claimed that he was stuck inside the cab of an overturned pickup truck next to his father's body with no food or water, and that he was 6 years old. He said that he had no knowledge of how to properly use the truck's CB radio, which could have explained his walking signal. Larry made these claims throughout the day on Wednesday, while King was on standby. Search and Rescue. Chief Martin E. Vigil of the New Mexico State Police, pictured in 1974. 3 separate groups in New Mexico, the New Mexico State Police, headed by Chief Martin E. Vigil, the New Mexico Wing Civil Air Patrol, a branch of the United States Air Force, and the Albuquerque Citizens Radio Association (ACA) began search and rescue operations in New Mexico by the middle of Wednesday morning. Clark Speakman of ACA suggested that Larry was probably somewhere in the southern region of New Mexico, after several locals in radio contact with Larry had given their testimony of their conversations. The Civil Air Patrol flew several planes over southern New Mexico and southeastern Arizona, equipped with radio direction finders, while the state police and ACA prepared to travel by foot in the foothills of Sandia Mountains, southeast of Albuquerque. The state police kept contact with Larry in the meantime. In Colorado, the next state over, the Denver chapter of Radio Emergency Associated Communication Teams (REACT) set up listening stations across Colorado to assist in the search for Larry. 8 United Press International (UPI) picked up the story that day, Speaking to a reporter, the state police offered the possibility of the plea being a hoax, while Ross reported that Larry apparently wasn't familiar with the area or with any of the towns he had been through, crying almost incoherently. Radio operators from communities within broader Albuquerque, including Moriarty and Cedar Crest, reported to the search teams that Larry's signal could have come from south of a cement factory in Tijeras Canyon. The ground and air searchers assembled there, assisted by Joe McKinney, a truck driver who heard about the rescue operation over Cobb radio. McKinney understood that helicopters would be necessary to navigate the Sandia Manzano Mountains. However, the state police were unable to furnish helicopters themselves due to the lack of a central coordinator role in the search operations division. McKinney, who had contact with the Navajo Nation Council chapter in Window Rock, Arizona, asked Chairman Raymond Nakai for assistance, as McKinney remembered that the chapter owned 2 helicopters. With New Mexico Governor Bruce King's encouragement by phone, Nakai obliged. King meanwhile contacted the New Mexico Army National Guard, who ordered 2 Iroquois helicopters and AU-21 aircraft, the latter flown by Captain Rick Tweed, a Guard pilot. Tweed maintained contact with Larry from his cockpit's radio. When the search teams arrived south of the concrete plant, however, only abandoned trucks and cars with nobody inside, discarded kitchen appliances, garbage, and water tanks turned up. 3 Civil Air Patrol pilots sighted an abandoned truck east of the Manzano Mountains, and a helicopter was dispatched to the area, but this too proved fruitless. As dusk fell on Wednesday, Larry replied that it was raining at his location, after King asked him if he could still see the sun. The 4th of July canyon in the Manzano Mountains was experiencing rain at the time, prompting ACA to search the area. Meanwhile, King asked Larry to yell into his microphone to see if he could spot the landing lights of a Piper Cherokee, manned by T.C. Ashby of the Las Cruces Civil Air Patrol, as it flew by the Manzanos. Larry yelled as Ashby flew over chillily, but when searchers reached the area, no truck was found on ground. In all, 150 persons equipped with directional finders and radio monitors scoured the foothills of central New Mexico by the end of Wednesday. Sergeant W.A. Schmidt of the Civil Air Patrol reported that the search teams had still not discredited the possibility of the signal being a hoax. He opined, "I personally have never had any doubt that this is the real thing. I heard the kid crying. I just can't believe it isn't the real thing." Thursday, August 9th, dawned especially hot in Albuquerque, the following hours reaching temperatures into the 90s of degrees Fahrenheit. Civilian men and women, both teenage and adult, from Greater Albuquerque volunteered to search for Larry that Thursday. Commotion of Thursday's search flooded the citizens' band with disparate voices calling for Larry, making it difficult for him and King to communicate to each other over the airwaves. The search was further marred by children using walkie-talkies to impersonate Larry. By this point, very desperate, the search teams followed every lead, no matter how far-fetched. A church in Wichita, Kansas, which was holding an all-day prayer vigil for Larry, called the searchers to look for Larry beside a lake in Alamogordo, prompted by a message. A psychic calling from a phone booth asked them to search 20 miles south of Moriarty. A woman from Maryland, who had gotten lost off a road in Sandia Park, asked the searchers that they look there. All 3 leads were followed to no avail. By the end of the day, critical phone lines within the state police offices had gotten tied up with calls from as far east as New York concerning Larry, complicating matters further. Additionally, 2 separate families, one in Florida and one in Maryland, called the offices to report having relatives with sons named Larry traveling west with whom they had lost contact. Both sets of families were found intact shortly after. A radio operator purported that Larry had said that his last name was Cortse, which excited friends of an Albuquerque veterinarian with the same last name who had gone on vacation with his family. However, they were later found staying in Minnesota. Friday, August 10th, was marked by confusion, as the search groups sorted through conflicting reports as to Larry's whereabouts and a weakening signal strength of Larry's broadcasts, suggesting that the portable CB radio of the truck was running out of batteries. Frank Liu. Several months after contact was lost with the boy, federal and state officials in New Mexico and Colorado declared the incident a hoax.